Good morning, friends. Welcome to the worship service of the First Unitarian Church of Hobart. My name is Barb Lango, and I participate in the life of the church by being on the Board of Trustees, among other things. We are a religious community of people with diverse beliefs and shared values. Our diverse beliefs are expressed in our 6 sources, and our shared values are expressed in our 7 principles. Both can be found online at uua.org. Together, we strive to grow spiritually, build community, and live our values in the world. I have a few announcements. National Register to Vote Day is Tuesday, the 20th, this Tuesday. We will be holding a Register to Vote event from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. here at the church. We would like volunteers for 3-hour shifts, 10 to 1, 1 to 4, and 4 to 7. Hopefully, we can get at least 3 people per shift. If you can participate, please see Sandy Waters. Right now, I think we have 1 for the 4 to 7, 2 for the 1 to 4, and I'm sure some of us will fill in the other one, but I'd really like to see more than 3 people there, but 3 at least. We need 3 at least for each shift. Thank you. Just a reminder that we're having our rummage sale on Friday and Saturday, October 7th and 8th. Please bring in any donations any Sunday until then. Also, our monthly board meeting is this Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. All are welcome. Our minister, Pastor Tom Bozeman, is in the pulpit today. We are currently streaming our services online. The Joys and Sorrows portion of our service, however, is private, and we'll take a break from streaming during that portion. Other than that, the service will be recorded and will be available for future viewing on Facebook, YouTube, and the church website. Right now, masks are optional in the church. We do understand that there are people that can't attend. Please let your Facebook and Twitter friends know that you're attending worship with hashtag First Unitarian Hobart. And now please silence your devices and take a deep breath and another, and join us in the spirit of reverence.
No? That was beautiful. Thank you. If you would, join me in lighting the chalice. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in a celebration of a life we share together.
Our opening words, the same that we had our first week of this series. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. I invite you to open your gray hymnals to hymn 20 and rise in body or spirit and join in song.
Please remain standing and join me now in our affirmation of faith. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. The service is its prayer, and this is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We are striving to create a worship space that is both spiritual and safe. We recognize that not everyone can attend in person. We extend a special welcome to anyone who is joining us virtually today. And a big thank you to our tech team, which right now is James and Tracy. If anybody else is interested, they could use help. For those present in the sanctuary, please take a moment to greet your neighbors by waving your hands and letting the warmth of your smile fill the space between us.
I
Each week in worship services, we invite the sharing of joys and sorrows and milestones so that we may hold them together, so that we may be in the loop on what's going on with each other in our lives. So does anybody have a joy or a sorrow or a milestone they'd like to share? Yes.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. So, I have always felt that one of the strengths of our faith is that it draws on wisdom teachings from many different stories from around the world that help us make sense of our lives in these times. Now, on the surface, these stories may seem deceptively simple. In case of this morning, it involves a pygmy boy, his father, and a bird with the most beautiful song. But like other stories that have been passed down from generation through generation and have stood the test of time, this one works on a deeper level and is therefore an opportunity for personal discernment. Now, don't worry. Unlike school, where at this point, if you were like me, you were feverishly looking in the back of your textbook for the right answer, or your dog-eared copy of Spark Notes, or trying to guess what's in the dark recesses of your teacher's mind, all of the answers already lie inside of you. If, and only if, there are symbols that come up for you, let them be your interpretations. If the story evokes feelings or reactions, just sit with that. Then, as Jerry has encouraged us, ask yourself where those interpretations or feelings are coming from. Be an active participant in the process of better knowing yourself. So, let us now get into a posture of contemplation and open your minds and hearts while we listen to our story for all ages, the most beautiful song. Once, a young pygmy boy heard the most beautiful song coming from the forest. It was such a beautiful song that he had to go and see who was singing. In the forest, he found a bird who was singing this most beautiful song. He brought it back to the camp to feed it. His father was annoyed at having to feed the bird, but the son pleaded and pleaded, and the bird was fed. The next day, the bird sang again. It sang the most beautiful song in the forest, and again, the boy went to it and brought it back to feed it. This time, the father was even more angered, but once again, he gave in and fed the bird. The third day, the same thing happened, but this time the father took the bird from his son and told his son to go away. When his son had left, the father killed the bird with the most beautiful song, and with the bird, he killed the song. And with the song, he killed himself. And he dropped dead, completely dead, dead forever.
I invite you to open your teal hymnals to hymn 1007. There's a river flowing in my soul, and rise in body or spirit and join in song. be seated. So at one point in my life, I was in a relationship, as many people are, and the relationship had been going for a little while, and we had gotten into kind of a routine with one another where we let each other have our own space and our own way of doing things and our own way of functioning. And the times that we would meet, when we'd have a date night or something like that, that felt special. But oftentimes we were just kind of living in the same space, going about our lives, doing things out of habit and relating the way that we had become accustomed to. And I received this invitation to join a men's retreat in North Carolina. I was living in Massachusetts at the time, and there's some folks that I knew who had a place off the coast of North Carolina, and they wanted to go away for the weekend. And I thought that sounds like a great opportunity, and I went to join them. I flew down there, and I had never been to this kind of offshore island before. It was a short boat trip. There was a private boat that everybody who lived on the island kind of pitched in for to have it operate on a regular schedule. And there wasn't a grocery store on the island, so any grocery needs you might have, you'd have to buy on the mainland and bring it out there. And once you got onto the island, there were no cars or trucks. There were just golf carts. And that was the only way that anybody got around there. And so we got off the boat and we took a golf cart to this house that was on the beach and had a lovely time, the group of us, for that weekend. And it was this beautiful experience of getting to let go of all of the discomforts of the relationship that I wasn't having to deal with while I was there. The things that weren't working quite well, I was able to just let that go and be with this group of guys on this little island off the coast of the Carolinas. And then, of course, on the trip back, taking the golf cart to the boat and then the boat back to the mainland and flying back, there was that distinct feeling of normal life encroaching back into my consciousness. Everything that I would be going back to, everything that I would be navigating, that I had gotten to take a break from for a little bit. When we're on a vacation somewhere, it can often feel easy to rest in a sort of present moment consciousness, to live out our highest ideals of how we'd like to treat ourselves and how we'd like to treat others. And it can feel like a simple thing to do, just to take things as they come and to be our best selves. And then when we get back home, or even when we start to pack our bags in preparation for getting back home, we can start to take a different shape. Our bodies and our hearts and our spirits readying us to face those same familiar circumstances. We can start to constrict, or maybe the constriction for you looks like being a little bit less honest with yourself, or maybe being a little bit less patient, or maybe anticipating other people judging you, or any kind of permutation of what that constriction of regular day-to-day life might look like for you. However it tends to operate, there's something about the ring of the familiar that teaches us, that tells us to get back into gear. Our vacation consciousness is insufficient for actual transformation because it's the exception, because it only happens a small percentage of the time when things are specifically not normal, and it only functions because it's not the norm. Our usual day-to-day consciousness is also insufficient for our own transformation. There's too many deep grooves that we've dug over the years that our spouses and our friends and our loved ones have helped us dig, the way that we're just used to operating and functioning and relating. Our habits of mind and body and spirit are extraordinarily hard to rewire. A different sort of consciousness is required. harnessing some of that sense of the limitless, the endless, the incomprehensible, the measurelessness, the mysterious that we sometimes get when we're on a trip somewhere. I'm imagining some of that might have been at the top of Machu Picchu. To do this on one's own, as a solitary individual in our regular day-to-day lives, is a Herculean feat. But when we can join with others on the journey, when we can mutually support one another in that rewiring, so much becomes possible. And so that's the intention of this series that we're wrapping up today and the one that we're starting next Sunday, of digging into some reflection, some self-examination, and then coming up, setting some intentions for the coming year. Why exactly is it so much harder as an individual trying to navigate one's day-to-day life to get to that place of connection with the mysterious, the endless, the incomprehensible? Well, because it's kind of scary. It touches on our mortality, our frailties, our vulnerabilities. It's scary stuff to sit with by one's lonesome. As Rabbi Alan Liu wrote, there is a void at the beginning of creation and a void afterward. And life is the narrow bridge between these two emptinesses. Usually all our focus is on that narrow bridge of our own life rather than on what comes before or after. According to the Torah, human life emerged from tohu avohu, a howling, empty chaos, and the medium of its creation was Ruach Elohim, the divine breath, wind and air, nothingness in motion, by which a lump of dust and earth was transformed into Nefesh Hayim, a living soul. But the word nefesh, Liu writes, soul, also means nothingness. It also means air or breath. Breath, ruach, nefesh, is precisely an energized nothingness, a dynamic emptiness at the center of our being that mirrors the dynamic emptiness out of which life arose. That dynamic emptiness is what lurks in between our thoughts, underlying and behind our actions. When we can sit in the midst of that sort of dynamic emptiness, we might find our tight grip relaxing, our trust in existence growing. It's that river that flows in our souls. It's the most beautiful song that gives life to all things. That dynamic emptiness can be hard to locate. A perfect encounter with it is called samadhi in Buddhism and Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism, some yogic schools, or the light of God in Christianity. If we don't have some regular spiritual practice, it can be hard to even glancingly touch that sort of meditative consciousness. Our lives are just filled with so much food and activity and chores and news and books and music and movies and pleasure and failure and success and products and sports and love and pain and loss and on and on and on. And if our whole lives are filled up to the top with so much stuff, we can easily lose track of the nothingness out of which life arises. The emptiness that gives life meaning. As Rabbi Liu wrote, our problem is not that we don't try hard enough. It is that we try too hard. It's that we have such an exaggerated belief in the force of our own effort that we never stop trying. Our pursuit of pleasure and success is relentless, feverish, sometimes bordering on the demonic. We never rest. We have portable computers and faxes and email that we take on vacation. We have phones in our cars. We have call waiting so that even our interruptions are interrupted. even those small moments of contemplation, of nefesh, of nothingness, we used to enjoy on vacation or even just driving back and forth between errands, even these are denied to us. That dynamic emptiness that gives our lives meaning. That nothingness out of which life arises, of which we lose track so easily and automatically. That samadhi, that light of God, is the realest thing that there is. It's realer and a more core part of our existence than all those portable computers and emails and car repair appointments. And our inevitable return to nothing is ultimately what is most ours in life. Once again, Rabbi Liu, sexually, physically, and mentally, we humans peak in our early 20s. And after that, we decline. Birth is our only real success, and even that success doesn't really belong to us. We were created out of nothing. It's all downhill from there. And that's the part that belongs to us, the long, slow return to nothing. But if we stop resisting it for a moment, it is precisely this return that can save us. It is precisely this return that can renew us, return us to the source from which we came. That inevitable return can empower us to do that rewiring, to choose new paths, to forgive both others and ourselves. It can empower us to see and know ourselves more fully and accurately. Otherwise, we get lost in our self-deceptions and rationalizations and efforting and exertions and reasons and arguments. When I'm bearing a grudge against someone else, or when I haven't been able to forgive myself, my mind and heart and body become fixated, and I don't want to let go. It can feel like if I let go, something bad will happen, and that fixation is what keeps things stuck, keeping me from that sense of dynamic emptiness, the great nothingness at the core of our beings that makes all things possible. That sense of emptiness or nothingness that we might call the holy, that suffuses everything in our lives, Lou writes, with holiness, even those faults we thought we had to forgive ourselves for, even that behavior we took to be wrongful, we now realize has a holy spark at its center, waiting to be released. This is the essence of self-acceptance and self-forgiveness. Resting in our own beingness, we can get in touch with our own worth, with our own dignity, with our own sacredness. And with that sort of spacious attention, Lou writes, everything enlightens us. Even the things we think of as our mistakes, everything in life comes to us as a teacher. He continues, "Show me what you are like," Moses pleads with God. And God complies. "My name is Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. I am gracious and compassionate. I am forgiveness itself. This is the very meaning of my name," God is saying. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the verb to be in the present tense. I am absolute presence, that aspect of the universe that accepts and forgives. And in that sort of spacious attention, that seeing of existence more clearly, of ourselves with perfect clarity, we return to the source. We are forgiven, and it is easy for us to forgive in return. In 1994, 74-year-old Alvin Strait traveled 240 miles from Lawrence, Iowa to Blue River, Wisconsin on a 1966 riding lawnmower at a top speed of 5 miles per hour for 6 weeks to make amends with his 80-year-old brother, Henry. They hadn't spoken in years. Because of his eyesight, he wasn't able to legally drive a vehicle, so the lawnmower was the best he could do. And after the trip, Henry moved back to Iowa to be closer to his brother. For many folks, this sort of forgiveness and amends-making can feel easier. This return to right relationship can feel easier and more accessible as they approach the ends of their lives and have a clearer sense of what is most important. As the emptiness that gives our lives meaning looms closer, so much that is of less concern can fall away. As the nothingness out of which our life arises and to which our lives return at their completion starts to draw near, we might be able to hear more clearly that most beautiful song being sung. Can you hear that most beautiful song? Can you hear it in your bones? At our highest aspirations, we Unitarian Universalists see within ourselves and within one another an inherent worth and dignity. We know ourselves to be an integral part of an interconnected web of relationships with our own health and the health of others, intrinsically interrelated and naturally acting in ways that bring greater wholeness to everyone. We know that we are not isolated beings, but deeply connected. But since we are human, caught up in all the relationships and anxieties and fears and stuff, we necessarily falter. As the Apostle Paul wrote in the book of Romans, "For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I do." Since in our society so many of us so often have to struggle for mere survival, we can easily fall into a habit of trading away our aliveness for our survival. That trading away of aliveness that our story is this morning describes in such dramatic fashion, in which the silencing of the most beautiful song resulted in the loss of life itself. This time of year can be one of realigning ourselves, of shifting into a stance of holding near who and what we hold dear, of pressing out of our cold and separate crouching, of taking back our lives. So for these past 5 Sundays, we've been taking stock of how we may have drifted from our highest aspirations to prepare us for the next 5 Sundays in the series of bringing ourselves back into alignment with those highest aspirations. As we ride this blue boat home, as we return again to know what we know to be of utmost value. And so if you so choose, this time of year can carry you significantly closer to the truth of your life. Regardless of our beliefs, the sense-making of our minds, we are in our lives confronted with the immensity of existence, the ways in which we feel like we have done all we know how to do, and it hasn't felt like enough. We are left to grapple, to pick up the pieces as we can, and to try to put them back together into some sensible fashion. And so over this coming week, in the wake of this series, I invite you to just reflect on what have you awoken to over this past month of us digging into this stuff together? What's been standing in the way of your hearing the most beautiful song as clearly as possible and harmonizing with it? What realignment is called for in your relationship to yourself, your relationship to others, your relationship to the world as a whole? This time of year is a sort of womb of worlds to come, pregnant with possibility, a crack in the familiar. So may we lose the path that does not live up to our highest aspirations. May we re-find the path that does live up to them. Even as we risk the less familiar, the less comfortable route, may we act from the faith that this is the place of mutual aspiration in which we can join with one another to fashion something new and beautiful. May we choose to feed that bird that sings the most beautiful song that makes life itself possible. May we feel that spirit moving in our hearts. May we reconnect with the river that flows in our souls, with the light of God, with that sense of meditative consciousness, with that nothingness out of which life arises, that emptiness that gives lives meaning, with that most beautiful song. And may we find our way back together continually and ongoingly. May it be so.
Thank you, Pastor. Now is the time in our service for our offering. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and friendship. We give with the faith that together we have enough. The money in the baskets goes to sustaining the mission of our community. The money in the cups goes to our Faith in Action ministry and a different charity chosen by the ministry every month. This month, the money from the cups goes to the LGBTQ+ outreach of Porter County. For those not with us or not here with us today, there's an online link on the screen for both one-time and regular donations. Could I please have 4 volunteers to come forward to carry the baskets and cups? For your prayers, your presence, your service, and your gifts, we are truly grateful. And now, please rise as you are willing and able and join in singing the closing hymn, number 1030 in the Teal hymnal.
And I'll do a little walking through with the pronunciation of this one, since some of it is not in English. You'll see if you look there on the pages of the hymn, there's the lower line, which is in English, and there's the upper line, which is not. I'm going to just speak out the Zulu part, and feel free to speak it back to me. Siyahamba. Kukunyen Kwenkos. Wonderful. Siyahamba. Kukunyen Kwenkos. Wonderful. Easy enough.
If I may, can you come over this way, because Megan made a point to me earlier this morning. The words are up there, the tune is easy,
Thank you, everybody. Our closing words this morning: deep peace of the running wave to you, deep peace of the flowing air to you, deep peace of the quiet earth to you, deep peace of the shining stars to you, deep peace of the infinite peace to you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Again, if you would, help me distinguish the chalice. Distinguishing the chalice. Is this text by truth? The warmth of community or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Poof. All right, we have snacks in the kitchen, in the fellowship hall. Come join me.